Thank you.
Yeah, that's right.
You like yours crunchy? Not too crunchy. If it's not boiled corn, it's boiled. Right.
If you go down there, you also find life jackets down there, and on the foredeck of the boat we carry rafts of two different types. There's the big orange things at the back there, they're called saucer rafts, and either side of the wheelhouse we've got these inflatables called Zodiacs. So we've got enough equipment for nearly 400 passengers, so sit back and enjoy yourself. I'm going to try and dip off Kent, which is why the eagle's on the pedestal there, that tall column. We call it just the eagle. It's called the Golden Eagle, or the Royal Air Force Memorial for London. That's the Golden Eagle, or the eagle. On your left-hand side, a building that looks quite old, and it does look a bit like a French chateau. It's not very old, it's 110 years old. You don't even know what National Liberal Club is, do you? See? So, forget that. The ship on our left-hand side is the Tattersall Castle. She came down from the Humber up in Yorkshire. She's an old-side paddler. 20 years she's been here. That's a floating hut. Built for the pharaohs of ancient Egypt. That one come from Heliopolis in the desert, where the temples to the sun god stood. They're always made in pairs. We have this one, and the twin to ours is in America. It's in Central Park in New York City. We call ours Cleopatra's Needle, and the Americans call theirs the other one. We've got this one, they've got it ours. In that building, the Registrar General stored for over a century all the records that related to births. Much like the stern of the ship there, it's called Temple Art, and that's quite important. It tells us we're now leaving the city of Westminster, which is 1,000 years old, of course, city of royalty, entering the city of London, which again is 1,000 years old, this time a city of money. This is the biggest money market, City of London School for Boys, now owned by an American bank, JP Morgan, so we'll see the new school very shortly. And the semicircular building on the corner with the columns and the statuettes, that's Unilever House, headquarters of the Lever brothers, the Anglo-Dutch concern, who make lots of things. Right, got a couple of bridges in our way now. We're not in our way, we go around them, but this is the Blackfriars Road Bridge, 1869, over by Queen Victoria herself. The last one is the railway bridge, about 1880, but the original bridge that stood here for 5 years all on its own was these columns here that supported the Alexandra Bridge. And it became in 1864 the first railway bridge that spanned the River Thames, the Alexandra Bridge. It's an adobe building with a cross on the roof. Well, it's got to be St Paul's Cathedral, isn't it? Has covered that. More important than that, like, isn't it? Right. Now, let me tell you, what can I tell you, mate? Do you want to know everything, or just a bit? I'll tell you a little bit. And then if you want to know why, I tell you. First of all, you've got to realise that on that site, the Romans were the first ones to build any form of place of worship, a temple to Diana. So that site is very religious. It goes back nearly 2,000 years. The first Christian church was built on that site in 604. That was dedicated to the patron saint of this city, St Paul. That's why it's St Paul. This one you're looking at today took 35 years to build. It was completed in 1710. It's called Wren's masterpiece. Sir Christopher Wren, who designed it, is buried inside a cathedral. And this was only built because the other one had burnt down in the Great Fire. The other one was known as the biggest church in Europe. It stood over 500 feet high and a quarter-mile long. It never survived the fire, and when the church burned down, it took with it many valuable books, said to contain some of the greatest books in Europe. So there it is, St Paul's Cathedral. Now the only chance you're going to get to have a look at it, London School, there, that's the red building. That's where Lord Nelson's buried in St Paul's, and the Iron Duke, the Duke of Wellington, also buried there, and Wren, of course, I mentioned. River on your right is a great big building with a tall chimney. What Americans call them smokestacks, for some strange reason or another. Anyway, whatever it is, whatever that thing is, that's the Bankside Power Station as it was, now it's shut down 25 years ago. This on our right is probably one of the most exciting buildings we've built in London for many years. It's the Globe Theatre, Shakespeare's Globe Theatre. There it is, that's exactly what the Globe would have looked like when it stood here some nearly 400 years ago. The Globe Theatre. See, the building's got a thatched roof, very special. It's the first building that's been allowed to have a thatched roof in London for 330 years. That's the Globe Theatre. It's where the Shakespearean legend started. Not Stratford-upon-Avon, which is where he was born and died, but here where he worked. And worked hard to be a good playwright, which he wasn't. A terrible actor player, but a good playwright. So this is all I'm going to leave now. Let's us see the next bridge, which is called the Cannon Street Railway Bridge. And on your right is a pub, a tavern, whatever, an inn, I suppose that's a tavern really. It's the Anchor Bankside. There's been an anchor at Bankside here for nearly 500 years. The original one was used by William Shakespeare. This is the third pub built on the site. It was built in the early 18th century. The pubs have been used by people like Dr. Johnson and Samuel Pepys, people like that. Sir Francis Drake's ship, the Golden Hind. Not, of course, the original one, which wouldn't have lasted this long, but the replica they built 23 years ago, down in Appledore in Devon, or perhaps one of the most famous English vessels. The Golden Hind was the first English ship to sail completely around the world in 1577. On his return back to England, Francis Drake, as he was then known, in 1580, gave Queen Elizabeth I half of the booty on board, which her share was £10 million. Christian worship on this site goes back about 1200 years. That's where John Harper was baptised in 1607, and when... Well, this bridge is, of course, London Bridge. So the bridge, this is London. We only ever had one London Bridge at a time. This bridge is important, marks the starting point of the Great Fire of London of 1666. That's where the Great Fire started. And all on your right-hand side, this was known as Hayes Wharf, the larder of London. Now it's known as London Bridge City, because it's all owned by the royal Q80 family, who control all their property in this country through an agency called St Martin's. So if you ever see St Martin's, you'll know it's Q80. And the big grey warship we're coming up to, on its anchor chains, is the HMS Belfast. She's been here for 25 years. This is the biggest cruiser ever built for the Royal Navy, some 11,500 tonnes, and she had a top speed of about 32 knots. 32 knots is about 40 miles an hour, which you can maintain in all but the roughest of seas. So you can see she's a nippy old ship, and during the war she was up in the Arctic Circle protecting the Russian convoys to Murmansk and Archangel, and she got involved in what they called the Battle of the North Cape of Norway. Maritime history, the last of the big gun cruisers, of course. One of those secret flags today. Carries also the Navy flags on the stern, which is a great honour. That's the white ensign there. And ahead of us we've got Tower Bridge. It was opened on June the 30th, 1894. And at that time, well, this was the busiest river in the world. And the river was full of sailing ships. And so if you look at the bridge in a different light, you'll see that if you disregard the lower spans just for a minute or two, you'll see the bridge is very high. It's where the two towers are. If you look at the top, they've got these what join the tops of the towers together. These are known as crossovers. So when the shipping caused the bridge to be raised open, people went up the towers, walked across the top and down the other side. So in effect, they went over the top of the shipping. It's at least 135 feet above the level of any tide. From the roadways, the bascules, to the underneath them is 110 feet. The bascules are 100 foot in length, and they weigh 1,100 tons each. They can be tipped up like two big seesaws in a minute, fully open. They've been raised over 500,000 times and they've never failed to open. The bridge itself cost £1 million to build, designed by a fellow called Sir John Wolfe Barry, and took 7 years to build. And it's called Tower Bridge because it's next door to the Tower of London, not because it's got two towers. And as if trying to baffle you even more, it's not a tower, it's a castle. But if you look in the middle there, see the four taller towers there where the weathervanes were on top of? Well, that's known as the Norman Keep. It was started in 1078, built by William I, but in a bit later what they did was whitewash it to make it more prominent, and it then became known as the White Tower. Officially it's called Her Majesty's White Tower of London. That's why it's called the Tower. And that's why this is called Tower Bridge. There's the joint, the big white balls. I walked in and out exhibition. The whole bridge is an exhibition. For about £5 you can go and see everything on the bridge. Walk up the towers, walk across the crossovers, and even visit the little bridge, the little shop there underneath there, called the Tower Bridge Shop. Mum's there, Mum's Spoons, for the Tower. So there's Tower Bridge. A still bridge, a still suspension bridge, cladding's underneath there. In case you wonder what the badges are, well, those badges weren't put on the bridge originally when it was built. They've been added on later. The badge in the middle is the badge of the Corporation of London, which is in effect the council, the local authority that runs the city. But it's different to any other authority in England. They're very powerful. It's a very prestigious organisation. And the other things at the other side, which look very much like Masonic badges, are what they call a Bridge Estates badge, Evil Pass. That's the famous bridge. The one with all the houses on, the chapels, the shops, the Peter Cole Church Bridge, the Peter's Bridge. The one they used to lock up at night at 9 o'clock by ringing the curfew on the bell in Cheapside called St Merrily Bow. So if you could hear Bow Bell, he was a cop. That's the old bridge they used to put the heads of the traders on the spikes on. That's the old bridge, which ain't here anymore. So I'll explain to you what this is. This looks like a river wall, but it's actually called the Wharf, the Tower Wharf. On the Tower Wharf, Colonel Blood was apprehended after trying to steal the crown jewels in Charles II reign. So this Tower Wharf is very old. And through the Tower Wharf is cut a tunnel, which originally, the purpose was to supply water into the moat, which was then held in by Henry III's Watergate. But it's Henry III's Watergate, which is known as Traitors' Gate, because now you can understand the mechanics of it. When traitors were found guilty of treason at Westminster Hall, which is where we just left, they were brought down river, under one bridge, into the Tower of London by that archway, up to the steps of Traitors' Gate, or Henry III's Watergate, and then taken on to be executed or imprisoned for life, so it became known as Traitors' Gate. Through that gateway, only one person ever gone through and come out alive again. That was the young Princess Elizabeth, imprisoned in the Bell Tower by Mary, but when she acceded to the throne, she insisted on being brought out through the archway, so then one person ever to go through there and come out again. But many people went through there for the last time, people like Anne Boleyn, Catherine Howard, who was brought downstream underneath London Bridge, and she looked up at the bridge, and on the bridge was the head of one of her lovers, Culpeper. But God bless her, she did say she would have rather have died the wife of Culpeper than live as Queen of England, so they chopped her up anyway because she was a bit saucy. Thomas More died in there on Tower Green, and so did Lady Jane Grey, which is why Tower Green is known as the saddest spot on earth. 17 years old, in a marriage she didn't want for 9 months to the Earl of Dudley, imprisoned in here for 7 months, 9 days an uncrowned queen. Finally, to stop the rest of some populace gathering around her as a rallying cause, they executed the young woman. That's why they call it the saddest spot on earth, because of Lady Jane Grey. The linchpin of our history. This is the most... And an obligation to drop it in the box, but if you want to...
Oh. months before, but they were still in the project. To pull it off would have taken a lot for the three of us. I mean, it was one of those, yeah, we can get it done, but it's not going to be the way it should be. And that's what Dave was like, in the bump, man. No. We have irritating things, so there's irritating things about me and everybody else. But Jack,
Okay, well then I'll back. I mean, if that's the case, then I'll.
and that's, I've already said to Dave, I said, if on right now, ask me, who do I take? Give a choice. I would take Randy, only because I can say to Randy, I want you to do this. I don't know if Jack was trying to prove it, and I don't know if that had support or not.
That's the other. That's good.